You said in the House during an urgent question on the 15th of May that in response to the massacre on the border between Gaza and Israel, that the UK would do everything it possibly could to get some kind of journey towards a peace process started. What's the FCO or your own ministry done since the 15th of May to try and get some kind of peace process moving?
Okay, I mean, thank you very much for the question. I hope Middle East peace process would come up because, again, as colleagues know, I'm passionate about this. I'm one of the optimists in relation to this. When I went to Gaza a couple of weeks later and to Israel, my sense was that there was significant shock about the events, particularly of May the 14th, the day of the highest number of deaths and wounded. I think it shocked the Israeli system, who were very alert and aware of criticism about the use of live fire. I think it shocked those who had exploited the protests and been very deliberate. And, we know what Hamas did. I think there was shock in Gaza about what had happened. And I think the demonstration of that was the next day, which was a Friday. There were very few people. Orders are given and people respond to orders. Don't be under any illusions any other way. So I think there was shock to the system. In going there, also, there was a sense that Gaza couldn't just go on as it was. And I said in answer to questions recently in the debate last week about Gaza in Westminster Hall, any objective assessment of policy on Gaza would say it had failed. Whoever you were, if you were Israel and had looked to squeeze the politics in Gaza for the past 10, 12 years, well, it's not worked. Hamas is still there. Gaza is still as it is. There are still threats to people on the border, so that's not worked. If you're Hamas, it's not worked. Israel hasn't disappeared. There's no political gain for you. If you're the people of Gaza, it's been a disaster. So no one looking at Gaza would think anything other. We've got to do something different. It's got to protect Israel's security, but it's got to provide humanitarian relief and a change in the nature of life for Gaza. Now, there's determination at the UN through Special Envoy Nikolai Mladenov and his medium and longer term plans. I think there is some recognition in Israel from those responsible, both at COGAT and the Minister for Planning, to recognise something more needs to be done. Now, into all this, what the UK has injected, and what I've injected at all times, is you can't sort this unless there is the overall agreement, because you can't look at Gaza on its own. You can only seriously resolve Gaza if you're prepared to look at the two-state solution and to start once again the efforts to bring a political conclusion to this. And this can only be done by waiting for the moment the envoys produce their proposals, and then we all pile in on this. There's never been a better time to do this. And I think the incidents of Gaza have provided one element, one catalyst to this process, and we have been vociferous in making that case ever since.
And still making the case?
Yes,
with the
absolutely.
UN and bilaterally with the Israelis
Yes.
and the Palestinians?
Yes, yeah, I would go there at the drop of a hat and in time. We're in contact with all the respective parties. Now, what we know is that the two envoys are talking to people in the region. We know that Mr. Kushner and Mr. Greenblatt have been there recently. It's a very active conversation, and everyone is expectant. We urge the PA to get back into a relationship with the United States, because that fell away after the Jerusalem decision. And we understand the feelings of sentiment there by the PA, but it's important that the United States, they engage, because they must be part of the proposals when they come forward. And the proposal's got to be timed right, and they've got to be workable. They may not be the answer on their own, but they've got to allow a number of other parties, ourselves, EU colleagues, to get in there to support the process, because ultimately it's got to be a negotiation between Israel and Palestinian representatives. Can't be imposed on anybody, but there is a better chance now, and we should all be seeking to take it.
Can I ask you about the US role?
Yeah.
In your view, in the view of the FCO, do you still see the US as being an honest broker, given the Trump administration? And more importantly, do the people on the ground still see the US as being an honest broker?
I think the US's role as broker has been damaged by the decision on Jerusalem, as we said at the time. I can't see that it's the sole broker anymore, if it had ever been. Is it involved, though? Oh, absolutely, it must be, because it is the most significant link with Israel. And that's why we urge the PA to get involved. But it's also why I think others have got a real opportunity to help in this process, including, of course, Arab states who will not forget Jerusalem at all, but want to see a just solution, but a solution which recognises a security for Israel as well, perhaps in a way that has not been evident for some time.
I don't want to take the Bob Seeley route of hypotheticals and devil's advocate, but I asked a former Foreign Secretary, Lord Haig, at least on a dozen occasions through the 2010-15 Parliament, the same question about two-state solution. The answer was always similar, that the window for opportunity for achieving that was closing. I think I've asked you directly on a number of occasions in the House this similar questions. Can you see how sceptical people could be that that is the answer from the UK government's position in terms of the window of opportunity closing for a two-state solution, but it seems that nothing is being done to try and get Israel to abide by the UN resolutions to stop building illegal settlements? I mean, how many illegal settlements have not been built or constructed or been halted as a result of UK pressure, either at the UN or bilaterally with Israel?
Well, the answer to your second is significant. I mean, we know that our concerns about settlements probably assist in a slowing of process, but it's impossible to say. And I think our resolute position on settlements, which includes a very strong UN resolution, I think in 2014, has been noted in Israel. But Israel's policy on settlements goes on, as we know, and our position on that is very clear. But I think you do have to separate in a very complex situation this from restarting the MEP talks. We're clear that the longer the settlement process goes on, the more difficult it becomes, but not impossible, to do the land swaps that we still believe will form the basis of a land settlement that will enable a final agreement between Israel and the Palestinians to go ahead. We can understand scepticism, but the question I have to throw back is, well, if it's not this, what is it? Is it a continuation of where we are now? I think that's a disaster, and I've said so. All that happens if things carry on as now, they get worse. Gaza gets worse. The sense of hopelessness in the West Bank gets worse. Those who, like the PA, have accepted the existence of the State of Israel, recognised Israel, worked with Israel on security concerns, have turned away from violence. What do they have to show for it? How long can they go on like that? And those in Israel who push and work for a two-state solution as well, if they see the land dropping away, and then, well, if it's not two-state, it's one state, how does that work? I have to be an optimist because I can't see another road here. And that's why, despite the scepticism, despite the fact that it hasn't happened yet, there are still as many good reasons for it to happen as there originally were, and we have to believe that. The support of the existence of the State of Israel and its security is absolutely fundamental to the United Kingdom and will not change. But we just believe with a passion that that security is enhanced by an agreement and the creation of a viable State of Palestine to go with it, and will continue to do that, because I cannot see an alternative that delivers both justice and security for Israel.